Dobar dan. That means good day. This is TalkCast PDX. Find us on the web, talkcastpdx.com. It's Tuesday, August 31st, 2021. Name of the show is the Bogdanich Perspective. I'm your host, Paul Bogdanich. Welcome. Title of today's show is Lions and Tigers and Bears, without the oh my. Start with Ida. I've been saying how I watch hurricanes and earthquakes because I like the probability analysis that they do to predict hurricanes and earthquakes. So when I watch hurricanes, I watch the technical data, the advisories, the discussions that come out every 4 hours, vortex data messages, which are what you get when an aircraft is flying in the storm, radar presentation, satellite presentation, and that kind of thing. And that's how I watch a hurricane, but I watched Ida. If you imagine an old style clock face, and I only say old style because I went through my house to try and find one, and all of our clocks are kind of like digital anymore. But if you remember an old style clock, with noon at 12 o'clock at the top, 6 o'clock at the bottom, each number is 30 degrees, right? So 11 o'clock would be 330 degrees, 12 o'clock would be 360 degrees, 1 o'clock would be 30 degrees, and like that. And I was watching Ida cross Cuba. Interaction with Cuba dropped it to a tropical storm, strengthened really quickly. By the time it got to the Outer Banks of New Orleans, it was a Category 4, almost Category 5, about 6 or 8 miles an hour short of a Category 5 hurricane. It was coming in at 320 degrees. All right, 11 o'clock is 330 degrees, so it was coming in 325, almost 11 o'clock, call it. And the strongest winds, when you have the eye wall structure that it did at that time, was to the north and to the east, or to the front of the hurricane and then to the east. And it scrubbed up a place called Grand Isle, Louisiana. Most severe damage, I think, of the storm. Went inland, and inland in southern Louisiana is over a swamp. The first land that it got to was by a town called Houma, Houma. I guess it's a town of about 35,000, parish by the same name. It's the county seat or parish seat. And it looked on the radar presentation and all that like it did a great deal of damage. I don't know for sure. Strong winds. But as soon as it was over Houma, it had a double eye wall. It was going to undergo an eye wall replacement cycle. So it had an outer eye wall and an inner eye wall. And the inner eye wall just disappeared, got consumed by the outer eye wall. And then the thing turned straight right, it was, which is east. But I mean, it went from heading at 11 o'clock to heading at 1 o'clock, after it got done scrubbing up this place called Houma. And that's amazing, for a hurricane to take a right turn like that. Then it went up and it sat, forward speed slowed, and it sat on the western, about 5 to 10 miles off the western edge of Lake Pontchartrain, and then New Orleans is on the southern edge of Lake Pontchartrain. Sat there with the strong winds from the east side. I don't know how strong they were, obviously strong enough to take out all the power. But the levees held and everything else. So, and after it got done scrubbing up New Orleans, and it just headed straight north and is now probably a depression at this point. But they're going to be without power for a long time. Other than that, we'll have to see how bad the damage is. Here in the west, we have the opposite problem, big fires. If you look in California, we have one called the Dixie Fire, 463,500 acres. 500,000 acres. That's big. Monument Fire, 164,800 acres, and the Caldor Fire, which is 145,500 acres, and those are only the fires in California above 100,000 acres. The Caldor Fire, they're evacuating South Lake Tahoe. and there's a place called Tahoe Valley, which is south shore of Lake Tahoe. You have all the casinos and all that stuff. And then Tahoe Valley is where the airport runway is and all the houses as you get down. And that Caldor fire looks as if it's going to burn right into that area, which is going to be a lot of homes, we'll see how bad that is, but anyway, the Caldor fire is very hot right now. Last week, I was talking for the last couple of weeks about the rent moratorium through the CDC, the federal eviction moratorium, and said that there was going to be decisions. And then I think last week I mentioned a district court decision, and I said that they were going to kick it up, that the judge said that they had to kick it up to the circuit court, which is the court above that. That did not happen. Supreme Court took it straight from the district court. Went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court issued a ruling on it on last Thursday, which was August 26th, and it was an 8-page opinion, which is very brief for a Supreme Court opinion. I went to the Supreme Court website, printed the decision, and tried to take out the bits that are legible, or that you can that read like ordinary sentences. When the Supreme Court makes a statement like, on a clear day the sky is normally blue, that's followed usually by a full paragraph of precedent, legal decisions and so on. They don't make, when you read a legal decision, it's not just statements. Anything they say is carefully documented, by the law. But I put together, the parts of the decision that you can read. Goes like this. Careful review of the record makes clear that the CDC has exceeded its authority. It would be one thing if Congress had specifically authorized the action that the CDC has taken, but that has not happened. Instead, the CDC has imposed a nationwide moratorium on evictions in reliance of a decades-old statute that authorizes it to implement measures like fumigation and pest extermination. It strains credulity to believe that this statute grants the CDC the sweeping authority that it asserts. Indeed, the government's interpretation would give the CDC a breathtaking amount of authority. It is hard to see what measures this interpretation would place outside the CDC's reach, and the government has identified no limit beyond the requirement that the CDC deem the measure quote unquote necessary. It is up to Congress, not the CDC, to decide whether the public interest merits further action. Since the district court entered its stay, the government has had 3 additional months to distribute rental assistance funds to help ease the transition away from the moratorium. Whatever interest the government had in maintaining the moratorium's original end date to ensure the orderly administration of these programs has since diminished. And Congress was on notice that a further extension would almost surely require new legislation, yet it failed to act in the weeks leading up to the moratorium's expiration. It is indisputable that the public has a strong interest in combating the spread of the COVID-19 Delta variant, but our system does not permit agencies to act unlawfully, even in the pursuit of desirable ends. If a federally imposed eviction moratorium is to continue, Congress must specifically authorize it. The application to vacate the stay presented to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court justice is granted. And that's what their decision said. If you'll remember from basic civics, we have 3 branches, executive, legislative, and judicial. This is the judicial branch, just excoriating the legislative and executive branches for being unable to govern, for lack of a better word, they can't do their job, apparently. So it's an unusual decision in that sense. Legally, everybody knew it was coming. That means no more federal eviction moratorium. Said last week, I was in here on last Tuesday, and on last Monday, the FDA Well, according to all the headlines, and I read one of them from the Wall Street Journal. I don't think I read the headline, but I read a paragraph. The FDA approved the Pfizer vaccine. Pfizer, the stock, was the biggest loser on our list of 54 stocks last week, falling 4.35, 4.4%, call it. And the reason's pretty clear. If you go and read what the FDA actually did, they issued 2 letters for what they called 2 substantially identical drugs. One drug would be the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, which if you go into a clinic or a doctor's office or a hospital or a Walgreens, for that matter, and get a vaccine, that's what you would receive as the Pfizer-BioNTech drug, and that one is widely available. And then the approval letter, the one that was approved, was not that one. The approval letter was granted to one that is labeled Comirnaty, Comirnaty. So is how I think you say it, Comirnaty. But they granted approval to this Comirnaty drug, which is, they called substantially identical to the other one, except for it's not commercially available and will not be commercially available until they finish some mandated studies, which will be in 2023 or 2024. People who watch these things point out that the BioNTech drug, the Pfizer-BioNTech that you can get, what the letter that they issued there is, it's essentially an extension of the emergency use authorization. People note that to extend the emergency use authorization on the Pfizer-BioNTech, that they only looked at prior data. What did they call it? Evaluated the original registration trials only, which means the alpha and beta variants of COVID, not the delta. They didn't consider any delta variant at all. Critics say that the letter is immediately obsolete because delta infections are approaching 100% of all new infections. No delta studies. What it did do, however, is kept the Pfizer-BioNTech drug, the one that you can currently get, in an emergency use status. And that means Pfizer's exempt from all liability. So it continued Pfizer's exemption from liability. On the bright side, you can't be forced to take it, strapped into a chair. Any judge that mandates it for a prisoner, as soon as it gets appealed, he's going to be overturned, all that kind of thing. U.S. Code 360 BBB-3 and the Nuremberg Code, for that matter, say that no human being can be forced to participate in a medical experiment or denied employment and education on the same basis. So, they can make it tough for you at work, probably fire you. You'll probably win a unlawful termination suit in 5 years. But can't force you to take it. Also during last week, and this may have been the bigger driver of the Pfizer decline than the analysis of the FDA quote-unquote approval. This one was known broadly, but there was a study of an outbreak out of Cape Cod, Massachusetts, but they formally released a study. 74% of the infected individuals were fully vaccinated. Oxford study was released that said the viral load is higher in vaccinated. Viral load is the amount of virus in your respiratory system, how contagious you are. The viral load is higher in vaccinated than unvaccinated individuals. Study out of England studied an outbreak up in somewhere like Wales. 489 vaccinated deaths, 253 unvaccinated on a 56% fully vaccinated population. Israel came out with a study that says, quote, natural immunity confers longer lasting and stronger protection, unquote. Also out of Israel, the efficacy of the Pfizer BioNTech, after 6 months, they put it 17%. The Mayo Clinic did a study out of, I think, Wisconsin or Minnesota, one of those places, that put the efficacy after 6 months at 42%. 50% is the minimum number for even granting an EUA for a drug with any known side effects at all. Israel, again, and this is informal, but they're also noting deaths and new cases amongst quote-unquote boosted individuals, so that would be triple vaccinated, Delta variant, of course. And yesterday, the FDA released formal warnings about myocarditis and pericarditis, I think mostly directed at the Moderna rather than the Pfizer drug. But on June 4th, the Canadian researcher came out and said that both the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines, which are mRNA therapies, gene therapies, produce spike protein, and he discovered that spike protein was a pathogenic protein. And this is on June 4th. And so they know that in greater than 60% of people that get the shot, they get what's referred to as microcoagulopathy. And what that is very microscopic blood clots, principally in the heart, lungs, and brain. But they're so small and generally speaking in such low frequency that they don't cause any kind of clinical effects. When they get to the point that they cause clinical effects, that's what you refer to as myo and pericarditis, and that's in the heart. And that's what the FDA warned against yesterday. But it'll be interesting to see what they do going forward. I read this morning that 2 of the senior FDA officials that are in charge of drug approval resigned. According to Bloomberg, they were concerned about the politicalization, I don't know, the interference of the administration and the Centers for Disease Control, which would be under the care of Dr. Fauci. And they're saying that they're trying to strip they're interfering in the FDA process for approving these booster shots. Is what, I just read that this morning, but that's what Bloomberg said, apparently. Anyway, to the markets. Chairman Powell, we had the Jackson Hole Jackson Hole Fed meeting last week, and Friday was Powell's big speech. It's amazing. Other than the hurricane and the fires, nothing's fish nor fowl. They say one thing, but it's out. But anyway, he came out and he said that the Fed will probably quote unquote taper by the end of the year. But during the questions, they asked him, does that mean that you'll tighten? And in his clarifying remarks, basically what he said is right now we're printing in between $120 and $180 billion a month, and we'll probably reduce that, maybe to $110 to $170 billion a month or something, or 100 to 150. But they'll reduce that, but they won't consider quote unquote tightening. As I mentioned in this financial speak, everything has a special word. But tapering is reducing the amount of money that you're printing, and tightening is beginning to sell some of the assets that you bought with all the printed money. And so what he said is they'll taper, reduce the amount of printing, won't stop printing, but they'll reduce the amount, and will not tighten, in other words, sell any of the assets that they purchased with this money. And that made the market close at an all-time high last Friday, which was August 27th. Markets closed at an all-time high yesterday. When I looked at them this morning, they were bouncing back and forth between zero. If they close the day up even 0.03 points, just up anything, it's a new all-time high. But not counting today, if you look at the past 18 trading days, now there's 5 trading days in a week, right? So 18 trading days, about 3.5 weeks. But the past 18 trading days, the market's been up 14 of the 18, and it's hit new all-time highs 12 out of those 14 days. So again, if the market's up even 0.01 points today, it's another all-time high to that list, but we'll see. For the week, ended last Friday, August 27th, market was up 68 points, call it 1.5%, and that means on any of our portfolios should have added about $1,500. Top 30 cap weight added 1,700. Top 30 equal weight added 1,300. Top 3 every sector, which is a little broader, only added 500. The large liquid leaders, which is my discretionary portfolio, only added 510. Hedges cost us 145 of that, so net we were only up 365. The list of stocks, that did it, if you look at the top 30 equal weight, which is a portfolio composed of the largest 30 stocks in the S&P as of the date that we created the portfolio. I mentioned last week how that list has changed last week or the week before. But 7 of them were up over $100. Google added $526 to the portfolio. Amazon added $449 to the portfolio. Nvidia added $291. Facebook added $225. Tesla added $190. JP Morgan added $158, and Bank of America added $112. So with the exception of Bank of America, Google, Amazon, Nvidia, Facebook, Tesla, JP Morgan. The largest stocks in the S&P are Apple, Microsoft. Both of those are missing off that list, but here we go. Google, Amazon, Facebook, Tesla, Berkshire Hathaway, Visa, Nvidia, and JP Morgan. So Visa is missing, Berkshire Hathaway is missing, Apple and Microsoft are missing. For the record, Apple was up, but only 0.28%. And where's Microsoft? Microsofty was down 1.52%. I don't know what that was about. But those are, and Berkshire Hathaway, what'd they do? BRKB, there it is. They were up 0.5%. So, but largest stocks in the top 30 equal 8 stocks up over 100. Oh, any downs over here? Yeah, 2 stocks below fell more than $100. Johnson & Johnson down $111, and Microsoft down $200. Top 30 equal weight similar, except for the oil stocks crept into the equal weight because they're not cap weighted. ExxonMobil was up good, and I think that's I know ConocoPhillips and Chevron were up, but I don't immediately see them here. There they are. Yeah, ConocoPhillips was up 7%. Exxon was up 5.6%. Chevron was up 4.6%, like that. So that's pretty good. Top 3 every sector, which is the broader portfolio, included the gains from the oil companies, banking companies, and then other than oil and banking, what you had is Amazon and Facebook and Google and Tesla. Boeing Aircraft recovered a little bit, gained 4% after falling, I think, 10% last week, 9-point-some%. 4 stocks are down in this broader portfolio: Walmart, NextEra Energy, and that's just profit taking. It's been going up every week pretty much. Crown Castle, which is a real estate concern, in Johnson & Johnson. In the large liquid leaders, I'm only carrying 18 stocks anymore. I started with 24, sold 6, carrying about 30% cash. Like I said, the 18 stocks that I am carrying added $500. Hedges subtracted 145, so the net was 350. The stocks that gained for me: Exxon, JP Morgan, Facebook, Kinder Morgan were the only big ones. No losers above $100. Biggest loser was Costco, down whatever it is here, $95. If you look at the hedges, they did exactly what they were supposed to. ExxonMobil was up 227, or should have added 227 to the portfolio. Hedges cost me 140. JP Morgan was up 225. Hedges cost me 249. Kinder Morgan was up 164. Hedges cost me 150. Caught a break on Facebook just because of the pricing of the options. Facebook added 172 to the portfolio, and the hedges only cost 75. On the other side, on the stocks that were down, nobody was down really. Costco fell $95, and the hedges cost me 74. And Procter & Gamble fell 86, and the hedges cost me 60. And Target would have cost the portfolio $84, and the hedges cost me 95. If you look at the 54 stocks, all the 4 portfolios, and just rank them. We have 12 stocks that went above, that were up more than 4%. And starting from the bottom and reading up, Kinder Morgan up 4.1%, and that's oil services, pipeline company. Boeing Aircraft 4.27, which is just a recovery off the big falls the last 2 weeks. Stocks trading down around 212. Used to be 400 when they had that accident, when the first 737s fell out of the sky, whatever it was, a year and a half ago. So stocks almost down by 50%. Broadcom up 4.4%. Chevron up 4.6%. Tesla up 4.7%. Amazon up 4.7%. Google up 4.8%. Bank of America up 5.3%. JP Morgan up 5.9%. Exxon up 5.8%. ConocoPhillips up 7.5%. And biggest gainer for the week in the 54 here, which obviously includes about the top 33, is NVIDIA again, up 8.75%. It's a meme stock. Tremendous retail participation. Keeps going up. But it's technically overvalued, but that doesn't matter anymore. It's more of a popularity contest. Below that, you had 4 stocks that were up more than 2%, but less than 4%. 4 stocks that were up more than 1%, but less than 2%. 10 stocks that were up, but up less than 1%. Only 2 stocks that were down, but down less than 1%. 14 stocks that were down more than 1%, but less than 2%. 3 stocks that were down more than 2%, but less than 3%. And only 5 stocks that were down less than 3%, or more than 3%, excuse me. And that was Walmart, down 3.3%. NextEra Energy, down 3.3%. Crown Castle, real estate concern, down 3.6%. Johnson & Johnson, down 3.6%. And Pfizer, falling 4.4% last week. And that's about it. I don't know, lions and tigers and bears, the news is just, this departure from Afghanistan, fires, floods, hurricanes. It's kind of, but the market, what was it, 14, 12 new all-time highs out of the last 18 days. I guess none of that matters, but it's, I don't know. I don't know if and when it's going to affect the national mood. I'm kind of surprised, but we'll have to see. What am I? That's it for today. If you have questions, comments, or want me to address some kind of a topic, email me. Paul@stockbetter.com. That's Paul@stockbetter, BETTOR.com. This has been the Bogdanich Perspective. Find us splattered on the web at Spotify and YouTube, but the best place is here at home, which is TalkCast PDX, TalkCastPDX.com, and do widzenia. That means goodbye.